Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, guys, and welcome to our last online lecture discussion for our course Assessment and Learning 2. So I hope the rest can join us. And after the discussion, I will give you, say, a day or two to prepare for the exams that I'm going to give you for our course so we can wrap up the semester. Okay, so again, I'd like to welcome you all to our lecture discussion. I hope we can finish this early because I know that a lot of you guys are busy with your examination. So let's not make this discussion long, but if you guys have questions, so you can just post your questions in the comments below and I will answer them once they appear on my screen. And let's see if we could answer your questions. So one of the most important component of assessment and learning too is portfolio assessment. I think we had a very brief discussion of for portfolio assessment when we talk about the different kinds of assessment. I think we discussed about traditional, authentic assessment, and then we also have your portfolio assessment. So just to refresh you of what a portfolio assessment is, it's a purposeful collection or a systematic collection of students' work and related materials that depicts a student's activities, accomplishments, and achievements in one or more subject areas. Okay. In portfolio assessment, the collection must include students' participation in selecting contents, the criteria for selection, and the criteria for judging merit and evidence of student self-reflection. That's what constitute a portfolio assessment. Okay. It's not a portfolio assessment if it's just a collection of students' work. There is this distinct um, part of a portfolio assessment that makes it a portfolio assessment, like the student self reflection. You haven't, I think, tried doing your portfolio because you have yet, I think, to go on a field study. But I don't know if that's gonna be possible for you to have a field study with the situation that we have now. Uh, Before the pandemic, students were deployed to different schools, and then they are going to document their experiences in those deployment, and that what's constitute their what we call field study portfolio. But I don't know if how are we going to do that next school year, because if I am not mistaken, um, face-to-face classes for next semester will still be limited because of the situation, because we still have yet to be inoculated or kailangan mabakunahan pa yata muna ng majority ng population natin before we can all go back to what we've been doing before the pandemic. So I do not know if how the field study will be carried out next semester, but basically when you will be given or when you will enroll in your field study courses next semester, you will be asked to compile your work experiences, and then you reflect on them and then put them together, and that will be your field study portfolio. Same is true, guys, when you will be deployed for practice teaching. There's what we call a practice teaching portfolio where students are who are deployed to schools to for their practice teaching will be asked to submit a practice teaching portfolio. So for today, I'm going to show you the essential parts of a practice teaching portfolio so that when you will be deployed, I think this will be in the last year of the program, you know what to include in your portfolio. Okay, so moving on, why do we need? Oh, why is portfolio assessment became so popular? Okay, the reason behind this is because we want learning and assessment to be active. That is, the students are actively involved in assessing themselves. So kung maalala nyo yung ating constructivist theory, o the theory of constructivism, ang gusto na yan ay the students will assess themselves. And what is the best way to do that is by portfolio assessment. In contrast, uh, students, for example, do not have any control or influence in traditional testing, like your prelim, midterm, and finals, because it's the teacher who will decide on the items to be included in the tests. So in traditional testing or traditional assessment, the sense of ownership on the part of the students, uh, there is no, I mean, sense of ownership on the part of the students. While in portfolio assessment, there is some sort of a sense of ownership on the part of the students, because in portfolio assessment, the students are actively involved in the assessment. How are they actively involved? Because it's the student who will collect their work. Okay, the students becomes active participants in the learning process, and kayo yung maglalagay kung ano yung pwede nyong ilagay doon sa inyong mga portfolio. And it's you who will have your reflection. Okay? So you are actively involved in the assessment as opposed to the traditional assessment na hindi kayo yung magde-decide kung ano yung ipapa-exam sa inyo. Now, on the part of the teacher, maganda rin itong portfolio assessment because we can track your progress. And not only that, ikumpara natin siya sa traditional assessment. Pag natapos na yung, for example, yung midterm ninyo, that's it. Okay? Well, we will have information like ano ba yung highest score, ilan ba yung pumasa, ilan ba yung bumagsak, ano ba yung lowest score, anong item ba nahihirapan yung mga estudyante. But how the students felt about the exam ay hindi natin makikita. But in portfolio assessment, because of the presence of what we call student reflection, makikita natin kung ano yung pinagdaanan ng estudyante base sa kanyang reflection. Ano yung naramdaman niya dun sa ginawa niya for that day, for example. Okay? So, hindi lang pag nag-practicum kayo later on, hindi nyo lang isusulat kung ano yung nangyari for the day. Like, my critic teacher asked me to prepare a lesson plan, and she also asked me to decorate the bulletin board inside the classroom. So it does not stop there. How did you feel about it? How did you go about it? Was it hard? Was it easy? Did it test your skills? So, yun yung mga ilalagay nyo doon sa reflection. And we do not have that in traditional assessment. Kaya yun yung sobrang magandang advantage ng pagkakaroon ng portfolio assessment. Aside from the fact that you can track the progress of the students, paano mo matatrack yung progress ng estudyante? Makikita mo dun sa mga inilagay niya doon sa kanyang portfolio. Okay? So you will see na, there is a progress happening dito sa estudyante. O makikita mo na, walang progress na gaganap dito sa estudyante na ito. Nahihirapan pala sila. So those are the things that you will see as a teacher in a portfolio assessment. It's an alternative to pen and paper objective test. Okay, so we made mention of that earlier. It is purposeful, ongoing, dynamic, and collaborative process of gathering multiple indicators of student progress. Okay, collaborative because in creating your portfolio, you have to work hand in hand with your teacher. Okay? So kasama mo yung teacher mo sa pagbuo ng iyong portfolio assessment. Kasi siya yung magdidirect sa'yo kung paano mo ba gagawin. Pero hindi siya yung magdidikta kung ano yung ilalagay. But of course, in reality, meron mga required na ilalagay sa portfolio, but you can go beyond that. No? Kung ito yung kung sinabi na maglakip ka diyan ng lesson plan na 5, you can put 10 siguro na lesson plans doon sa iyong portfolio. Okay? It is performance-based but more authentic than any performance-based assessment. Yeah, of course, this is more authentic. Pag sinabi natin authentic, it's something that the students can relate with because this is based on the things that they were doing. So it's more authentic. And that's what we want. Di ba? For the students to be assessed on the things that they are familiar with or that they can relate with or that are meaningful to them. Now, we have here the advantages of portfolio assessment. First, it promotes students' self-evaluation, reflection, and critical thinking. So just like what I said, sa portfolio assessment kasi, merong every part ng gagawin ninyo doon ay magkakaroon kayo ng self-evaluation, like a checklist. Nabanggit na natin dati yung checklists. Kung present ba or absent itong bagay na ito. Okay? And then you reflect also. And also, critical thinking. So you notice that these are all higher order thinking skills. And next, we have measures performance based on genuine samples of students' work. Okay? So the performance of the student now is based on what the students have placed in their portfolio. Okay? Sila yung naglagay doon. So kung sinabi ng teacher na put your best lesson plan, so pipili ngayon yung estudyante. So see, that is already judging, because the students will have to judge or evaluate out of the 25, for example, na lesson plans na prepare ng estudyante. Titignan niya kung alin yung pinaka-the best doon at yun ang ilalagay niya sa kanyang portfolio. Provide flexibility in measuring how students accomplish their learning goals. Okay? Unlike in traditional testing, yung kung mas siya, anong tawag dito? Mas confined yung pag-evaluate sa accomplishment ng estudyante. Unlike in portfolio assessment, we can measure the accomplishment of the students in the learning goals from different materials that are included in the portfolio. That's why it's more flexible in measuring students' accomplishment with regards to the learning goals. Then we have enables teachers and students to share the responsibility for setting learning goals and for evaluating progress toward meeting those goals. Like what I said, this is a collaborative work between the teachers and the students. Thereby, both of them do share a responsibility in evaluating and in setting the goals, evaluating the progress of the goals, of meeting the goals. Ano, nami-meet ba natin yung learning goals na isinet natin? Okay. And then we have give students the opportunity to have extensive input into the learning process. So we made mention this in our introduction kanina, that it's the student will have control. It's the student who will have a control of what should be included in their portfolio. Okay, so those are the advantages. We still have more. It facilitates cooperative learning activities, including peer evaluation and tutoring, cooperative learning groups, and peer conferencing. Okay, in making a portfolio, teachers should encourage cooperative learning. You can ask your students to let the other student or their classmates to evaluate yung kanilang work. Okay? So that's peer evaluation. And pwede silang magtanungan, magturuan, wag magkopyahan. Bawal yung kopyahan. Tutoring, like you're going to assist your classmate in accomplishing the portfolio. And you can also share ideas on how are you going to go about it. Okay. Ang nakikita lang namin sa mga field study portfolio, instead of cooperative learning, they're copying each other's work. So napapansin namin, magkakapareho yung isinasagot nila. And sometimes students, yung mga guide questions na binibigay namin for their portfolio, kinaka-copy-paste nila sa internet, which defeats the purpose of a portfolio assessment, because it's one way for us to know what's going on or to know the progress of the student. Pero if you copy one's work or kuha kayo sa internet ng isasagot ninyo, ay hindi namin malalaman. Madidefeat yung purpose ng portfolio assessment. Okay? Kahit hindi mo nagawa yung tasks na pinagawa sa inyo, at isinulat mo yon sa iyong reflection kung bakit hindi mo nagawa and so on. So yun yung titignan namin. Hindi yung, hindi yan natapos, so mababa dapat ang grade niya. No. Makikita namin ngayon doon sa reflection mo. Provides a process for structuring learning in stages. Yes, because you are going to collect your outputs through time. So medyo matagal. Actually, yung inyong field study guide, it requires 1 SEM to accomplish yung inyong field study portfolio. Okay? So yun. It comes in stages. Provides opportunities for teachers and students to discuss learning goals and the progress toward those goals in structured and unstructured conferences. So like what I said, collaborative work between the teacher and the student. So pwede nyong i-chat yung teacher ninyo, pwede nyo siyang puntahan, magtanong tungkol doon sa inyong portfolio. Okay? So yun, pwede anytime. Or pwede naman magpatawag yung teacher ninyo ng conference para, halimbawa, during the field study, so before the start of the study, magkakaroon kayo ng conference with the teacher, sasabihin niya yung mga kailangan yung gawin. Then siguro after 2 weeks, magmi-meet kayo ulit para tanungin ng teacher, kumusta yung progress ninyo, ano bang nangyayari na doon, kumusta ba yung portfolio ninyo. So that's the work of the teacher. No? Or pwede kayong pumunta personally to the teacher. Okay, that's structured and unstructured. Enables measurement of multiple dimensions of students' progress by including different types of data and materials. So mas pag pinag-usapan natin tong portfolio assessment, maraming way na maipakita ng estudyante yung kanyang natutunan. Okay? Hindi katulad sa paper and pencil test na kapag hindi mo ma-memorize, kapag hindi mo maalala yung sagot, okay, ay mahihirapan ka na. At yun na lang yung source ng evaluation sa iyo o measurement ng iyong galing, o natutunan. Pero dito sa portfolio assessment, various ways, okay, of showing your progress of students. Okay? Iba-iba yung mga ilalagay natin dyan, which could be our basis, in evaluating your work. Now, if we have advantages of portfolio assessment, we also have disadvantages of portfolio assessment. Okay? Una, it requires extra time to plan an assessment system and conduct assessment. O, kasi magpe-prepare ka dito ng you have to prepare as a teacher, or there should be an available rubric to measure the portfolio, para sa portfolio assessment. And hindi lang yan, kailangan pag-isipan din ng teacher kung paano i-conduct, paano mangongolekta yung mga estudyante ng kanilang ilalagay doon sa kanilang portfolio assessment. Okay? Gathering all of the necessary data and work samples can make portfolios bulky and difficult to manage. Yeah, that's another problem na nakikita namin, especially in previously doon sa field study for assessment. Sobrang daming isasubmit, And it's very bulky. Ang kapal-kapal nung material ay nung output na ibibigay ng estudyante or yung portfolio na isasubmit ng estudyante kasi may mga ipinapagawa. Lalong-lalo na sa EdTech, maraming ipinapagawa sa EdTech, So, bulky yung portfolio na isinasubmit ng mga estudyante. That's why, pag dumarating yung time na yan, sobrang, minsan yung teacher, nahihirapan siya mag-check. Kasi, let's say, if you have 50 students and 50 portfolio, sobrang dami at sobrang kapal. So, it will really take time, Okay, developing a systematic and deliberate management system is also difficult, but step is necessary in order to make portfolio more random collection of students' work. Okay? So, yan. Yun yung sinasabi dito, mahirap talaga siya. I-manage. And then we also have scoring portfolios involves the extensive use of subjective evaluation, procedures such as rating scales and professional judgment, and this limits reliability. Ang sinasabi lang dito ay when you're scoring a portfolio, hindi mawawala yung pagiging subjective, okay, ng isang teacher. Halimbawa, kilala ko ito na estudyante na matalino talaga at pag nakita ko yung portfolio niya, I tend to give a higher score sa kanya regardless of what the entry is or the entries are. Pag alam ko naman na itong estudyante na ito ay hindi masyadong kagalingan, so I tend to give that student a lower score. So that's subjectivity. And when you are very subjective in rating your students, the reliability of the test is affected. Consistency, Hindi ka consistent doon sa pag-i-score mo. So, apektado yung kanyang reliability. But of course, like what I said, we can reduce the effect of subjectivity or we can reduce subjectivity itself with the use of um, rubrics. Okay, yung rubrics. So, bago dapat kayo mangolekta o bago kayo dapat mag-develop ng portfolio, ay i-discuss ng teacher yung rubrics para alam nyo kung paano kayo i-rate so that you will be guided on what to do with the portfolio. Hindi pwedeng, okay, o sige, punta kayo doon. Tapos ganito, mangolekta kayo ng ganyan-ganyan. Hindi pwede. Dapat i-discuss muna paano yung rating na magaganap. Ayun. So, saan na yun? Then, the last one, scheduling individual portfolio conferences may interfere with other instructional activities. So, yun yung sinasabi natin. Kasi magkakaroon kayo ng parang conferences para mag-usap-usap, pag-usapan yung mga uh, things na-encounter ninyo while developing the portfolio. And that also requires a lot of time and may interfere sa iba pa nyong activities. Okay? Good thing sa sa field study, pag pinagawa kayo ng portfolio doon, yun lang ang gagawin ninyo. Mag-field study and gagawa lang ng portfolio. So, it will not interfere with other instructional activities. But of course, pag sa ibang pag nagturo kayo sa basic education, pag magfo-focus kayo dito sa portfolio, yung time nyo nga na magmi-meeting, kakainin niya yung time nyo dapat na kayo ay nagdi-discuss ng ibang topic. That's why most teachers, pag portfolio, pag nasa DepEd sila, ang ginagawa nila ay yung collection lang ng mga performances ng mga estudyante. Like yung quizzes. So, pag quizzes, ilalagay nila doon sa kanilang envelope. Exam results, ilalagay sa envelope. Nagpa-drawing ka, yung drawing nila, ilalagay lang sa envelope. Okay? The funny thing is, yung mga teachers, ginagawa nila yon not because they want to look at the progress of the students, kasi hindi nila masyadong nire-review yan base sa aking anong tawag dito, napansin. Pero ginagamit nila ito as a proof of the performance of the students. Okay? Pwede rin naman yon, lalong-lalo na pag meron kayong PTCA meeting, and most parents, lalong-lalo na pag ang inyong hinahawakan ay higher section, during PTCA meeting, the parents would always ask the teacher kung kumusta po yung anak ko, ma'am? Kumusta po yung anak ko, sir? Okay lang po ba siya? Ganon. So, meron ka ngayong portfolio na ipapakita sa parent. Oh, ma'am, ito po yung kanyang mga ganito, ganito. Base dun sa evidences na kinolekta mo sa estudyante. So, ganun yung nangyayari. So, it's not the students who are collecting actually. Meron silang sarili-sariling envelope. You can also do that when you will be teaching sa basic education. And then, pag ginawa nyo yan, you let the students put their work in their own envelope. And then, from time to time, you check them all para matrack mo kung kumusta ba yung kanyang progress. Okay? All right, so we proceed to the characteristics of portfolio assessment. One is it's multi-sourced. Sabi natin yan kanina na pwedeng iba-iba ang panggagalingan ng ating mga entry para sa ating portfolio. It's authentic. Yeah, it's authentic. Dynamic kasi pwedeng iba-iba and through time. Yung pangongolekta natin ng ilalagay natin sa ating portfolio. It's explicit. Okay, the entries are placed there as a proof of learning are explicit. It's integrated. Yeah. You integrate all the works of the students in different fields based on ownership. So I made mention of that earlier. The students' work will be placed in the portfolio, hence giving them the sense of ownership because it's them who will build the portfolio. Multi-purpose and so on. Okay? So those are the characteristics of our portfolio assessment. Now we move on to the types of portfolio. So meron tayo dito na documentary. This approach involves a collection of work over time showing growth and improvement, reflecting students' learning of identified outcomes. It includes drafts, scratch, and this one is sometimes called growth portfolio. Okay, so the main purpose of documentary portfolio is to track the growth of the students. Okay? So, pag may pinagawa kayo sa kanila, even yung first draft, second draft, third draft, scratch, ay ilalagay nila sa documentary portfolio. Okay? Collection of work over time. So, mahabang kukolektahin lahat yan as our way of tracking their growth and progress. That's why it's called growth portfolio. So that's documentary. Process. This approach documents all facets or phases of the learning process and provides progressive record of students' growth. It contains extensive number of reflected journal. It documents students' overall learning process. It can show how students integrate specific knowledge or skills and progress towards both basic and advanced mastery. So dito sa process, um, kaya maraming reflective journals na included dito because we want to document the whole process of the students doing a specific task. Okay? Titignan natin na from novice na master ba nila yung skill. Okay? So, yun yung process. Kaya marami siyang reflective journal. As opposed to the documentary, may mga reflective journals din siya pero hindi ganon kadami. Dito sa process, marami siyang reflective journals dahil nga gusto nating malaman what transpires, ano? Paano na-improve ng estudyante from zero knowledge to advanced mastery level doon sa task na ibinigay natin. Okay? So that is process. Now, showcase naman, this approach is best used for summative evaluation of students' very best work, determined through a combination of student and teacher selection. It includes students' very best work, determined through a combination of student and teacher selection, and only completed work should be included. Hindi completed ito. Should be included. So, summative in nature yung showcase portfolio. So, pwede nating ilagay dito yung mga results ng kailang summative exams, projects at the end of a chapter or a unit. Okay? Or, pwede itong culminating output. Okay? Kumbaga, ano yung mga very best works nila na ilalagay natin dito para maipakita nila yung pinakamagandang trabaho nila hanggang matapos yung subject na iyan. Okay? So dito sa showcase, from the word showcase, yung mga very best work lang ang ilalagay. Take note, this should not only be identified by the students but also by the teacher. Okay? Kaya tinawag natin na showcase. Ayan. Kasi yun yung pinaka-the best. Kung alam nyo, itong mga models, okay, na nag-apply, may fashion show, meron silang tinatawag na audition or go see. Pag pumunta ka doon, may dala-dala kang show portfolio na tinatawag. And that portfolio contains your best achievement so far. So kung ikaw ay model, kung nag-model ka para kay Michael Cinco, ilalagay mo yon yung mga picture mo sa kanya. Ano? Kaya model mo na, picture mo na nagmo-model ka sa fashion show ni Michael Cinco o kaya ng Dolce and Gabbana, gano'n. O kaya kung photographer ka, di ba? Pag merong gustong kumuha sa'yo na mag picture sa kanilang kasal, di ba? Para ma-convince mo sila, may ipapakita ka sa kanila ng mga dati mo ng work. Ayan. Yung pinaka-best, alam na maglalagay ka doon ng hindi maganda, yung best work mo ang ipapakita mo sa kanila. So that's not exactly the showcase portfolio that we have in education, but the idea of a show portfolio is the same as that. Okay? The very best works are included in the portfolio. Okay, so at this point, may tanong po ba kayo? Do you guys have questions? Okay. Any question? Or shall we proceed to the next? Hopefully matapos natin ito before 2 p.m. Okay, wala daw tanong si Joy Vicente. How about the rest? Tulog na? Baka naka-open lang naman yung ano yun, tapos tulog kayo, no? May tanong po ba? Feeling ko si Joy Vicente lang ang gising. Ayaw nagising si Ruben. Okay, wala din siyang tanong. Gising pa, late lang, ano? Late lang siguro. Delayed lang siguro yung broadcast sa inyo. Wow, na-impress ako sa inyo at wala kayong tanong. By the way, I'm going to send you a copy of this PowerPoint presentation sa ating mga GC. So you will have a copy. Okay, let's proceed now to the essential part of or essential elements or part of a portfolio. Okay. Pero later, pag kayo ay, anong tawag dito? Nag-field study, meron tayong tinatawag na field study handbook at yun yung magiging guide ninyo. Okay? You may not necessarily follow the essential part of a portfolio that I'm going to show you today dahil meron na siyang predetermined na format na base doon sa portfolio handbook ninyo na ibibigay sa inyo later on. But when you will be, or when you're interested to do a portfolio assessment to your classes later on, pag naging teacher kayo, then you may consider these essential elements of the portfolio. Essential part meaning these are important parts, but these are not the only parts. You can add more. Okay? But these are the most important part. So we have here the cover letter. Cover letter is, ang nakalagay dyan ay about the author and what my portfolio shows about my progress as a learner. Okay. So this is usually written at the end, but put at the beginning. Okay. Written at the end, but put at the beginning. So the cover letter summarizes the evidence of a student's learning and progress. So yun yung laman ng inyong cover letter. Okay, so about the author and what my portfolio shows about my progress as a learner. So yun yung laman. Sinusulat ito pagkatapos ng paggawa nyo ng portfolio. Hindi before kayo gagawa ng portfolio kasi wala kayong maisusulat tungkol sa progress ninyo as a learner. Should be at the end. Okay? After makolekta mo lahat ng mga pwedeng ilagay sa inyong portfolio. Of course, we have the table of contents with numbered pages. Ayan, table of contents. Importante yan. Then, the entries. Ano tong entries? Ito yung mga ilalagay nyo. Both core and optional entries. Ano ang mga core entries? These are the student items students need to include. Ito yung mga required na i-include. Ano naman yung optionals? These are the items that the students choose to include. Okay? Paano kami pipili? Yung inyong choice ay dapat kung ano yung maipapakita mo na unique sa iyo. Okay, so you can choose to include the best pieces of your work, but also a piece of work which gave you trouble or one that was less successful and give reasons why. So ito yung maganda dito sa portfolio, guys. Kung sa traditional testing, dapat yung pinaka-best palagi yung papakita mo. Sa portfolio, pwede kayong mag-include ng uh, pinakamagandang trabaho mo at pwede kayong mag-include ng trabaho na hindi masyadong maganda. But you have, in the reflection, you have to talk about yung hindi magandang work na yon. Okay? And still, hindi bababa yung score mo dito sa portfolio by putting um, a work na nahirapan ka or that gave trouble or one that is less successful. Ang titignan ng teacher ngayon ay kung what did you realize? Help you? How did it improve you as a student? Okay? So, optional. So, pwede kayong maglagay ng mga ganyan, mga optional entries. Pero syempre, ang hindi dapat mawawala ay yung mga core. Yan yung mga required na dapat na i-include. Dapat meron sila. Then we have dates on all entries. By the way, wait lang ha. Okay, sorry guys. Pumunta lang ako uminom at natutuyuan na ako ng lalamunan. Okay, anyway, let's continue. We should put dates on all entries, and this is to facilitate proof of growth over time para makita natin, ano? And then we also have the drafts of products to be included, and this would include your oral or written products and the revised version. So, pwedeng ilagay natin yung first draft and corrected or revised version. This applies, for example, nagpagawa kayo ng essay sa mga estudyante ninyo. Okay, yung mga corrected version, ibabalik mo, so they have to write it again. Okay, so ilalagay pati yung draft. Kasi nga sabi natin para makita yung progress ng estudyante. And then, reflections. Okay, this can appear at different stages in the learning process, ano? For formative and summative purposes. And at the lower levels can be written in the mother tongue or by students who find it difficult to express themselves in English. So pwede, ano? You may allow them to write it in their mother tongue kapag hindi nila nahihirap o kaya Taglish siguro kung nahihirapan sila. But of course, that depends again on the school where you are teaching. If they won't allow you to let your students write it in their mother tongue, then wag niyong gagawin. Okay? So for each item, a brief rationale for choosing the item should be included. Okay? Halimbawa, bakit niya inilagay ito? Bakit ito ang nilagay niya? So merong rationale dapat. So this can relate to students' performance, to their feelings regarding their progress, and or themselves as learners. So students can choose to reflect upon some or all of these questions kung gusto nila, no? Pwedeng pag sumulat sila ng reflection nila, ito yung mga tanong na pwede nilang itanong sa sarili nila na ilalagay nila doon sa reflection. What did I learn from it? Ano? Anong natutunan ko doon sa, halimbawa, naglagay siya ng isang entry. Susulat siya ngayon ng reflection. So, ito yung mga kailangan niyang sagutin. What did I learn from it? What did I do well when I am doing it? Why did I choose these items? Okay, or this item? What do I want to improve in the item? And how do I feel about my performance? Or what were the problem areas that I have encountered? So yun yung ilalagay natin sa ating reflection. You just don't narrate kung paano nyo ginawa yung product na yon at kung bakit nyo sila pinili. Hindi lang ganun yung kailangan. So, yung mga binanggit ko kanina could be guide questions in formulating your reflections para sa inyong portfolio. Ayun. So, madaming reflections. Now, for the practice teaching portfolio, which I was telling you kanina, ito yung mga ito yung magiging parts niya, no, sa practice teaching portfolio. Pinakita ko lang sa inyo ito, ano, para magka-idea kayo kung ano yung gagawin niyo later kapag kayo ay madi-deploy. Ayan, tapos na pala tayo eh. So, table of contents, meron siya. Meron pa dito yung about the author pala. About the author, table of contents. Prayer of a student teacher or personal educational philosophy. Okay. Pwede kayong gumawa ng sarili ninyong prayer ng student teacher. And then you also write your personal educational philosophy. So, pag-isipan nyo, no, kung ano ba yung personal educational philosophy ninyo. Okay? Nung ako ang gumagawa dito, sinasabi ko dati, my educational philosophy is that education is holistic in nature. O, yun naman ang sinasabi ko dati. That we just don't develop the mind of the students, we also develop the heart of the students. So, yun yung aking personal educational philosophy. Kaya siguro, there are times na medyo strict ako dahil lalo pag nakikita ko na yung estudyante ay hindi natututo. So, like, yung sinabi mo na make sure na makapag-take kayo ng exam sa ganitong araw. So, bibigyan mo sila ng 2 days to accomplish the test. And then, meron pa rin isa na hindi nag-test. And then, uulitin na naman niya yun sa next na exam. So, pag ganun, medyo na-frustrate ako na, parang walang changes sa tao na to. So, it's kind of frustrating sa akin kasi as much as possible, I want my students to transform or to be transformed, okay? In terms of their attitudes, behaviors, or character, ano. Pero kung ganun na, sinabi mo na yung mga consequences, pinagbigyan mo na, uulitin na naman sa susunod. Okay? O kaya, when I see students na magrarason, pero yung rason ay halatado namang gawa-gawa lang, scripted, nakaka-frustrate yon or nadi-disappoint ako. So, yun siguro. Because probably of my personal educational philosophy that I want my students, to develop my students, not only from the mind, but also from the heart. Okay? So, yun yung akin, ever since, yan yung sinusulat ko na personal educational philosophy. So, kayo, ganun din, mag-isip din kayo ano, kung ano yung educational philosophy ninyo at yun ang ilalagay nyo sa portfolio. Resume, that is also included. Then, we have a brief description of the site of practice teaching, kung saan kayo na-deploy. Halimbawa, dineploy kayo sa Isabela National High School, then you have a brief description of the site. Anong itsura nung area ng practice teaching ninyo? Like, how many classrooms are there? Buildings? Are the buildings new? Is it state-of-the-art? So, lahat ng mga ilalagay na ninyo. And then, ito required ito, examples of lesson plans with drafts. Okay? May mga teachers na nire-require yung drafts, may mga iba na hindi. Yung mga corrected na lang ang ipinapa-require nila. And usually, madami ito. And with reflection. And then, evidences of community outreach with reflection, if there is. Halimbawa, yung sa PE, pumunta kayo doon para magpalaro. O nag-outreach yung teacher kung saan ka na-assign. Sumama ka, so ilalagay mo yon. Observation and evaluation forms. Ayan, pag may mga types na ino-observe ka ng practice teacher, yung cooperating teacher mo, ilalagay mo din doon. Best lesson plan using creative strategy with the complete set of materials. Usually, itong best lesson plan, ang ina-attach ng mga nagpa-practicum ay yung ginamit nila sa practice teaching, sa final demonstration nila. So, yun usually yung nilalagay nila dyan. But of course, you can choose a different lesson plan. But most of the time, yung lesson plan mo ng final demo, yun yung best lesson plan mo. Kasi syempre, talagang pinag-iisipan mo ng bonggang-bongga yun at pinaghandaan mo. Okay? Nang matagal, ano? And then we also have sample of learners' work and feedback. So, sample ng mga learners' work. Sinong learner? Yung mga estudyante mo. Kasi nga practice teaching portfolio ito. So, mangolekta ka rin ng mga work ng mga estudyante mo. Ano? And then, yung feedback ng mga estudyante mo. That's why, kung maalala nyo, kung na-experience nyo nagkaroon ng practice teacher nung high school kayo, at bago umalis yung practice teacher ninyo, may mga pinapasulat kayo sa isang papel kung ano yung pwede nyong sabihin tungkol sa teacher ninyo. Okay? Minsan, that's a way of feedbacking. Kaso minsan yung mga estudyante, lalo na pagwapo o maganda yung practice teacher, kung ano-ano na lang sinusulat. Ma'am, mamimiss kita. We love you kasi ang ganda-ganda mo and so on. So, ganun yung mga nilalagay. But of course, hindi dapat ganun. Ang ilalagay dapat doon na yung feedback ninyo sa kanya. Na if you love the way he teaches or she teaches, din yung mga susulat dapat ng mga estudyante. Okay, so importante din ilagay nyo yung mga yon, students' feedback. Ayan. Pag nag-practicum kayo, dapat magpasulat kayo ng mga estudyante ninyo ng kanilang mga personal feedback sa'yo, sa pagtuturo mo. Pag negative yung sinulat, so be it. Do not take it against the students because pag yung feedback ay negative, ibig sabihin, there is still a room for you to improve. And you have to address that as a teacher. And then we also have here titles and brief synopsis of professional readings and references with reflection. So, during the course of your practicum, may mga nagamit kang mga books, okay, or references, or pwedeng websites, o kaya YouTube channel kung saan ka nagbe-base ng mga sinasabi ng mga materials mo, i-include mo doon, and you also have to write a brief synopsis. Okay? And then, a personal development plan or a career plan. So, i-include mo din sa iyong teaching portfolio. So, ano yung career plan mo after graduation? Where do you see yourself, okay, after you graduate, after passing the board exam, for example? So, yan. So, basically, ito yung mga essential parts ng practice teaching portfolio. But, like what I said, the teacher may include more. So, pwede pang magdagdag yung teacher ng ilalagay sa inyong practice teaching portfolio. Okay? So, yan. So, yan yung mga gagawin ninyo pag kayo ay na-deploy later. Let's hope, pag siguro naman kayo ay fourth year na, ay medyo balik na sa normal. Somewhat balik na sa normal, ano? Because magpo-fourth year kayo 2 years from now. Diba? Parang, ay hindi, third year na kayo next year, after a year, fourth year. O parang, 1 year, ano? A year from now, mag-enroll na kayo. After a year, mag-enroll na kayo na as fourth year. Kasi mag-enroll kayo this year na third year. Then after a year, fourth year na kayo. So, yon. Ito yung mga gagawin ninyo sa inyong practice teaching portfolio. That's why, pag meron kayong mga activity na pinagre-recite kayo, lalong-lalo na pag naka-Zoom kayo, you have to seize that opportunity because that's a way of practicing your communication skills. Because you will be doing the practice teaching, hindi pwedeng hindi ka magsalita. Okay? Dapat marunong kang magsalita. Yan yung puhunan natin ng mga teachers. Okay? Although sabi nila, hindi mo naman kailangan magsalita palagi to teach. Dapat you let the students work also. Still, it's an essential skill that you must have. So you have to practice now. Guys, kasi that 1 year is no longer enough for you to practice. So you better start as early as now practicing your communication skills. Okay? So, yes. Nakita nyo, portfolio assessment, mahirap siya, especially in assessing, especially in checking portfolios, but you will get more information about the progress of the students more than you can get from traditional assessment. Kasi dito, makikita mo na yung feelings ng estudyante, makikita mo na yung saan siya nahirapan, bakit siya nahirapan. Okay. Kasi pag tatanungin mo yung estudyante sa klase, saan part kayo nahirapan? Nobody will answer you. Okay? I'm sure, kagaya niya, alam nyo yan sa sarili nyo. And pag kayo ay naging teacher, if you ask your students, do you have any question? Nobody will ask you a question. But the truth is, there are like 50,000 questions running sa kanilang mind. But they do not want to ask those questions and they will just pretend that they have no questions. Now, portfolio assessment will let the students write kung saan sila nahihirapan, bakit sila nahihirapan. Ayun. So, dun mo makikita. So, you have to read. Hindi yung may portfolio assessment okay, portfolio. Meron siyang sinubmit, 92 siya. Ay, may flower, may drawing. Uy, may butterfly pa na dry, dinikit niya dito, social, 96. Di pwede yon, no? Meron tayong gagamitin na rubric in rating the work of the students in terms of portfolio assessment. So, do you guys have questions? Tinanong ko kayo, no? May tanong po ba kayo? Ayan. O kagaya kanina na walang tanong. Tungkol sa lesson, huwag kayong magtatanong kung kailan ang exam, anong laman ng exam. Ang itatanong dito sa lesson muna. So, do you guys have questions? Let me guess, your answer is none. Ayan. Sobrang delayed naman yung broadcast ninyo. Guys, pag nasa YouTube live kayo, pag nadidelay kayo, pinutin nyo yung live. Ano? O, see, ang sagot nyo lahat ay none. Galing. Naiinggit ako sa inyo, sana all, walang tanong. Para hindi kayo ma-delay, pinutin niyo yung none. Ay, sabagay, mag-i-skip kasi siya pag pinutin niyo yung live, ano? Okay, tamang hinala ko, none sir lahat ang isasagot ninyo. Okay, so I'm impressed that you understood our lesson for today. That's very impressive. I hope mag-translate yan sa inyong examination. So, since you all understood what we discussed today, and I'm very impressed of you guys, I think we have to end now our lecture discussion, and announcement will be done in our group chat. So I'm gonna make an announcement uh, about the exams, the coverage of the exams, when is the exam, and other information that I have to let you know before taking the exams. We will do that in our group chat. Okay? So it's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think I have to end this live. So good luck in your examination. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.